9 reasons I stopped talking to women in the talking stage. Key phrase there is the talking stage. We're not talking about several dates in. We're not talking about if you're boyfriend and girlfriend in an exclusive relationship. We're talking about that stage, maybe even before you're going on dates, you're trying to vet one another to see if a date is worth it, called the talking stage. And this stage doesn't get talked about enough, unfortunately, because a lot of Christians aren't making it through this stage. They overvet or they undervet. This video is hopefully going to be helpful to both men and women to understand how they can do better in the talking stage. If you're a man, hopefully it'll help you identify areas where you're being too tolerant of bad behavior. So you should value your time. I know that some of you are desperate for dates, but you're wasting your time with certain women. And hopefully this will help you understand how that might be the case. And then if you're a woman, hopefully this will help you identify ways that you might be turning off men that you perceive as high value. Some of the reasons I present are going to be more obvious than others. Some of them you might even be oblivious to. We'll see. Now, I also want to note that this is a list of bad behavior that could be present in anyone, even if you're compatible with them on paper. So this isn't a list of things like, I thought they were in my theological denomination or whatever, and then we started talking further and I found out that they're only spiritual, so I stopped talking to them. No, that's obvious. Of course, I'm not going to proceed trying to pursue a long-term relationship with someone like that. Or maybe another one is location. You know, you're talking to someone and you think they're near you, and then it turns out they're actually in another state and had kind of lied on their profile for whatever reason. Obviously, you're not going to continue talking to them. So this is just a list of bad behavior that could be present in anyone, even if you're compatible. All right, let's get into the list. Oh, I will also mention that this is all born out of experience. This is not just a theoretical list. I was in the talking stage with hundreds of women over the past year. I have a lot of experience. I've seen a lot of things. And also in my 20s, I was talking to a lot of women as well. So this is born out of real experience. It is not theoretical. Okay, first of all, low effort / playing games over text. This is talking more about texting, because women will act differently in video calls or voice calls or in person than they will on text. And you have to take their behavior over text very seriously. It is indicative of how they're going to treat you, how they perceive you. It's not just this secondary aspect to the talking stage or the dating stage. And a lot of guys get very confused on that point. They tell themselves, oh, she's really interested in me because she seems enthusiastic when we're in person. And the fact that she seems bored or uninterested or doesn't respond quickly over text, well, some people just aren't texters. No, that's nonsense. She's not responsive over text because she's not that interested in you. Anyway, that was a little aside. So what's an example of playing games over text that I despise? Well, I want to be talking to someone who's clear and direct in what they want, interested in having a meaningful conversation, not playing games. So an example of that was a Filipina woman I was talking to a few months ago, and I messaged her on Facebook. Actually, I just added her as a friend because that's a thing. You can just add women as friends on Facebook, and if they accept your friend request, you can message them, and that's what happened. And we had our initial texting went really well. Then we had a video call that went really well. I mean, I was blown away with how compatible I was with this woman. I was super impressed with her. She really checked off my boxes. I was even thinking in the back of my head, like, man, did I meet my next wife? This is incredible. And we end up having several video calls, but like I noticed that throughout or in between our video calls, when I would try to text or have conversations, she was just really strange in her texting behavior. Like I would write to her, hey, how's your day going? And she would just heart it. I'm thinking, what does that mean? Does that mean you appreciate me asking the question? Does that mean you are having a good day, but you didn't want to write that? Does it mean, are you trying to like bait out more texting from me before you'll respond? Do you want me to say like, hey, please talk to me. I'm really, really interested in you. Don't play hard to get or something. I don't know. Anyway, that was a huge turnoff and very quickly killed my pursuit of her, even though I was pretty certain that she was interested in me and wanted me to pursue her. In fact, we probably would have even met in the Philippines when I had visited if things had gone better. But yeah, that kind of behavior was just a huge turnoff for me. I really don't like that kind of game playing. And then also other classic examples are just women who won't ask you questions. They only want to talk about themselves, or they just do low effort, one word responses. Again, sometimes it might just be they're not interested in you and you just need to recognize that and move on. All right. Next reason is refusing to move off of the dating app. So an example of this is like I was talking to a Ukrainian woman in the spring. I think I met her on CDFF, Christian Dating for Free. And she's really cute, really cool. I was excited to get to know her. CDFF does not have a great messaging platform. And I also don't think the purpose of dating apps is to vet. I think it's just to set up additional dates, whether it's video call or voice call, in-person date, whatever. I don't really think the app is the place to vet someone and get to know someone. I don't even think it's the appropriate place for the talking stage. That's kind of another conversation though. So yeah, when I'm on these apps, I mean, any app, it could be a local US app, or when I was on CDFF or Christian Filipina, like basically as soon as we had covered some really basic deal breakers, because I would always present a few deal breaker questions up front. As soon as she was like vetted at that minimum level, I was like, all right, let's move to WhatsApp or let's move to text if she was in the US. And in the case of this Ukrainian woman, she says, oh, I don't have WhatsApp. And I was like, okay, well, can you get it? She's Gen Z. She knows how to use a phone. She knows how to download apps. Oh no, let's use email. It's 2024. You don't use email to have a conversation with someone. And so just things like that. I'm not gonna entertain this kind of laziness. Like it's not hard at all to get WhatsApp, or we could have been on Messenger. I don't care, Telegram, whatever. I have them all. But just the fact that she wouldn't do this like basic little thing in order to facilitate a more meaningful, appropriate place for conversation was, indicative to me that she might be difficult or whatever. I'm just not gonna deal with that or entertain that. So I didn't keep chasing her. I didn't keep pursuing her. She sent, I think, another message, about email or whatever, and I just stopped responding. All right, next up is insecure or demands exclusivity early on. This was definitely common among the Filipinas I was talking to, especially if they were young. That could be indicative of immaturity. But I saw it in quite a few Filipinas I was talking to. Most of them were in their 20s though. And it's one thing if you're really far along in the talking stage and about ready to enter into a full-blown relationship, like, yeah, okay, at that point, maybe it's becomes a question of, are you talking to other people still? Maybe that's an appropriate question. I actually don't think it's ever an appropriate question. I think that, you just, if you're in the talking stage, you're allowed to talk to other people. And then once you're exclusive, you're exclusive. It's just that simple. It's very black and white. But in the case with some of these Filipinas, we'd be literally, I mean, we might have even just started the conversation. We might just be hours into the conversation or a day into the conversation, and she's already asking, like, "So, have you met other women on that app? Are you talking to them? What are they like, etc." And I'm just thinking, like, that's not what we should be talking about. Like, you should be getting to know me. I should be getting to know you. We should be focused on the purpose of this conversation, which is to vet one another and explore, what we're like and whether we should have voice calls or video calls, etc. And so that kind of insecure behavior, that's probably going to be indicative of difficulty later down the relationship. Relationships with insecure women are absolutely miserable. So any kind of indication early on that they're going to be insecure, that's a pretty big turnoff for me. Oh, also note that my current girlfriend wasn't like that at all. I mean, she was aware I was talking to other women during the talking stage before we became exclusive. Even after we became exclusive, I had made some comment about how some woman had started talking to me in the gym or something, and she was like, yeah, that's fine. She basically just indicated, like, I'm not threatened, I'm not scared by the fact that you interact with other women in some capacity. Now, obviously, she doesn't want me pursuing other women, but just the fact that during the talking stage, she wasn't concerned that I was talking to other women or demanding me to only be talking to her, that was a positive sign. It showed me that she wasn't insecure. Next up is overly eager or tries to lead the relationship. So I do think there is a place for women to assert themselves. If a guy's just breadcrumbing or dragging her along, stringing her along, there's definitely a place for a woman to just be like, hey, if you don't ask me out or we don't go somewhere with this, I'm moving on. That's fine. That's great. Recommend that. Approve of that. But if it's early in the relationship and she's trying to force the relationship, or she's just kind of dives in really deep, really quickly, and you know that it's not wise, and you push back, and she becomes difficult or flaky, all of this is negative. All of this is a point against her. So an example of that was in December. I had met over an app a really cute girl, and I thought it was going to go well. I actually thought we were going to end up being in a relationship. We had a ton of fun together on our first date, just really clicked. I was really attracted to her. She was really attracted to me. And we went on a first date, went great. And then we went on a second date. It's like dinner and a movie or something like that. I don't remember. And then the very next day, it had gone so well that it was like the very next day is like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm not doing anything. Okay, let's go on a hike. It was like a Saturday or something. So we went on a hike, and I guess since the two dates were so close together, I kind of blurred together for me, and I considered it one big date. And so at the end after I dropped her off from the hike, she sends me this text like 30 minutes later, kind of like, well, I've made my decision. Have you made yours? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, are you going to ask for a relationship? Like, are we going to get off the app? And I was like, well, I made some indication that I would only do that after the third date. She was like, well, no, that was 3 dates. And I was like, okay, yeah, I guess you're right, technically, but still, I had clearly expressed, at least in that moment, what I wanted and how I wanted to lead the relationship forward. And that bothered her. She got very flaky after that. She got kind of uppity with me. And then, I think, yeah, 5 days later, I think we were done and we weren't even talking anymore at that point. So I was just not, I wasn't going to deal with that. And she, I think just due to immaturity, she was kind of one of these people where it's like, if anything goes wrong, well, I've lost interest. And again, I don't want to deal with that. That's just immaturity. All right. Next up is excessive flattery. So unnecessary compliments early on, just over the top so that it seems insincere or sycophantic. A particular example, I cannot stand this, is when women call me baby early on. I've just met them. Now, if my girlfriend called me baby, that'd be fine. Still not a huge fan of that term of endearment, honestly. But yeah, early on, just kind of, I've just met you and you're calling me baby. That's, oh, I'm sorry. That's prostitution vibes for me. I'm really, really sensitive toward that. I don't like to get any kind of vibe of insincerity or inauthenticity. So just be, women should be careful of that. Be careful with how you, even if you're really excited about a guy, be careful about pet names, things like that. And likewise with guys, be careful with pet names early on. Next up is women who are difficult or get upset over minor inconveniences or make silly accusations of rudeness. Obviously, no guy wants to be with a difficult woman. And during the talking stage, you can pretty quickly find out whether a woman is going to be difficult. So, good example of that. I forget when this was, but it was a woman I had met on an app. We hadn't met in person, but I think this was our second voice call or second phone call. She was in the US. She was local. This was our second phone call. The first phone call had gone okay, decent. Second phone call, I guess she was feeling her oats or something, or decided to really let her true personality flow. As we had brought up the topic of just other experiences we were having in dating, which is pretty normal. I think that's pretty normal on a date, in person, video call, whatever, to talk about just, how's dating been going for you? You have any stories to tell, etc. And so I made some comment about how I appreciated how she wasn't like some of the other women I had been talking to recently. I don't even remember what that reason was. And her response was, "That was rude." I was like, "Excuse me?" She's like, "Oh, talking negatively about other women, that's rude." I'm thinking, no, that's really not a big deal in the context of the conversation. It's not like I went out of my way to just say negative things about someone for no reason. Not to mention she had no clue who these women were. I didn't say their name or anything like that. It just felt like she wanted an opportunity to jab me. And more of this personality of hers came out later in the call because it became apparent. This is wild. I've seen this a couple times though. She was simultaneously attracted to tall white men, tall white nerdy men, which I definitely qualify as. And at the same time, she made it very clear that she thought white men were rude. And is like sharing this with me and telling this to me. So at that point, I don't even know if I said anything. I think I literally, either I hung up on her or she hung up on me. It was so awkward and just so bizarre. So yeah, the conversation just got to this point where it was like, okay, you're clearly looking for a guy you can kind of dominate. You have mental health issues or something. It was almost like she had this enjoyment of putting white men in their place. I'm thinking she was woke, and yeah, absolutely not dealing with that. All right. Number 7, doesn't follow through or keep her word. So I'm talking about in simple ways, not necessarily something massive like she completely lied about, well, her name or her age or something. Like that's a pretty big red flag. She says she's 29 and she's actually 34, or she says she is living in some place but she's actually living with her parents, whatever. That's pretty big. I'm talking about smaller things, just little ways that she's inconsistent and doesn't keep her word, doesn't honor requests that she agreed to. So an example of that was the same Filipino woman that I was talking to that was playing games, that I ended up, not talking to her. Another point against her is one time we were having a conversation and I had brought up that I wanted to see more pictures of her. And it wasn't in a weird or inappropriate way. I had already sent a lot more pictures of myself at that point because we were pretty far in to talking. I mean, we had done 4 or 5 voice calls or video calls up to that point. And really up to that point, the best pictures I had to work with was her grainy profile picture on Facebook, which, I could tell she was cute. I could tell she was fit, but it would have been nice to see some more pictures. And then also she had some Facebook stories that she had posted that, I could see what she looked like. So I wasn't concerned about getting catfished. I just wanted to see more clear photos of her. And, I was not asking for something that I hadn't done myself. And she agreed. She's like, yeah, sure. I'll send you more. I'll send you more after the call. Never got them. We kept talking, a little bit more after that, but it just kind of like this, I just fell off, it just, I don't know if it went in one ear or out the other, or she changed her mind or what, but that kind of thing just isn't going to impress me. That's going to be a point against you. Point number 8, asking for money and gifts. This has happened to me in both the US and the Philippines. I have leaned into the financial angle at some points during my dating career. Whether you should do that or the reasons behind that, I'm not going to discuss right now. There's pros and cons. I'm not inherently opposed to a man who is successful playing up his wealth a little bit more. That doesn't mean I'm flashy and obnoxious on dating profiles. Like, I used to own a Porsche. Even when I owned that, I wasn't like putting pictures of myself next to it on dating profiles. That's cringe in my opinion. But it was definitely cool to, show up in a date at a date in that and, see their reaction, that kind of thing. I don't mind also sometimes taking women on nicer dates, even in the earlier stages of the dating relationship. But despite all that, I don't want to feel like I'm being used as an ATM or just being used for gifts or whatever. That's a big turnoff. I'm definitely sensitive toward that. I want the attraction to feel sincere. And of course, one of the ways it can feel sincere is if they're not focused on the money, they're not focused on the finances. Like I've never had this happen to me, but I've heard stories of women asking men on the first date, like, so what is your net worth? What is your income? That's so tacky. That would just be such a massive turnoff. Anyway, I'll give you a couple stories. So in the US, I did try a dating app called Luxy, Luxy, which is designed to connect more successful men with women who want to be with more successful men. I was not on there long, was not my cup of tea. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of out of playing that financial angle. I stopped doing that pretty quickly, but I wanted to try it. And so yeah, I tried Luxy, met a woman. This was the only date that was possibly going to materialize. I wasn't real impressed with the app, but she was in the area. She said she wanted to meet near where she lived. So I like to go for walks in parks, things like that, a little bit more outdoorsy, maybe go on a walk, then go to dinner. I suggested a park that we could meet at, and her response was, "Excuse me, a walk in a park?" And I was like, "Yeah, you want to go on a walk at this park?" obviously she wanted to go get dinner instead. So since I was kind of in the mode of exploratory dating, this wasn't an automatic red flag deal breaker. We're done. No, I was willing to tolerate that. So I was like, okay, sure. I'll look up a restaurant. Looked up the nicest one I could find in the area. In that immediate area, I wasn't going to drive her. I wasn't going to drive her all the way over into downtown Portland for some really ritzy place. So nicest restaurant kind of in her immediate area was a Cheesecake Factory. For those of you who aren't in the US, that's more of an upscale chain restaurant. I told her that, so we could go to Cheesecake Factory. Her response was, "Sorry, do you think you're putting your best foot forward?" And at that point, I just laughed and I just texted her and said, "We're not compatible. I'm not driving you over to Portland to spend $300 on you for a dinner. That's not me. That's ridiculous. If you find a guy like that, great, more power to you." She was conservative, by the way, from what I could tell, conservative Christian. So another example then is in the Philippines. I'm not going to make this story long. It kind of has a long backstory. I was supposed to meet two women when I went to the Philippines. The first one, I ended up, she's my girlfriend now. But when I met her, it was like, okay, I don't want to meet the second one anymore. But I didn't want to cancel everything because, yeah, I had set up this like 5-day event for us. So I told the second girl, I said, hey, the Airbnb that I rented, you and your girlfriend can use that as like a vacation house, because I was going to meet her and her girlfriend. Filipinas are rarely going to meet you alone. They're pretty shy. So she liked that. She appreciated that. But at the end of the 4 or 5 days that it was rented, she just started bombarding me with texts like, hey, will you extend the stay? We're having so much fun. And first I was polite, like, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. Sorry. And she just keeps bombarding me like, please, please, please. And this was a woman who otherwise in our previous talk, she seemed really mature. She was a very, very mature, godly woman from what I could tell. But that behavior was just so kind of childish, maybe even entitled. And finally I was like, why are you doing this? This is such a turnoff. Because I was open to staying in touch with her. I didn't know what was going to happen with the first girl I met. And she said, oh, I'm just trying to shoot my shot. It's like, okay, well, you ruined your chance of me ever pursuing you again so that you could possibly squeeze another $200 or $300 out of me for a longer vacation. All right, so number 9 is soft catfishing. This is a big one. Catfishing, as you know, is when somebody uses completely fake profile pictures to lure in usually a guy, and then, will refuse to ever do a video chat, and he'll get strung along. Maybe she'll even scam him for money or whatever, or he could be a he using beautiful women's pictures on the profile. Soft catfishing, though, is the term I created for when women or men use old photos or photos that are just so high quality they don't really represent what somebody truly looks like. So that could be due to just excellent lighting, angles, makeup. And I've been soft catfished numerous times. Probably most people who have gone on any significant number of dates have. I've been on dates with women who, actually, I was on a date with one woman who lied about her age. She said she was 29. She was actually 35. That came out when I sneakily got her to admit what year she graduated from high school, and then did the math in my head real quick and was like, wait a second, you're not 29. And then it kind of awkwardly came out on the date that she had lied on her profile. Anyway, she was also using old pictures. I mean, probably 10-year-old pictures. Like, she was way more fit in those pictures than she was in real life. She was still pretty, but yeah, that was a good example. And then I've been soft catfished another time when the woman, it looked like the pictures were still fairly recent, but she had gained a lot of weight recently. Another time, so it was a woman I met online. She looked like an 8 out of 10 in her pictures, honestly. But then when we got on the video call, she was more like a 5 out of 10. And I was just astounded. I was honestly almost impressed. I almost wanted to applaud, like, wow, you are really good with makeup and angles because I believe that was you in those photos, but that's not what you really look like. Of course, I didn't tell her this, and I still went on the date. She was still above my looks threshold, even with who she really was. But still, it was definitely an instance of soft catfishing. So yeah, women, if you're doing this and you know you're doing this, like stop, or you suspect you're doing it, maybe get some friend or something to take a look at your photos. Like don't do that. Just show what you really look like. Of course, the way to mitigate or deal with this problem is to do a video chat before you meet someone in person. Again, in my case, I'm open to going on dates with women that I'm probably not going to be in a long-term relationship with. So yeah, every time I've been soft catfished, it's not like I pointed out or I'm like, I'm done, I'm out of here. No, I still go on the date, I still have fun, but that's probably the end of it. All right, as a bonus, here are reasons women might stop talking to men. So some for the ladies. Women, feel free to add more to this list down in the comments. And guys, take note of this. Women are going to be turned off if you engage in excessive or inappropriate flirting. And man, guys have a tendency to do this because they see a woman, they think she is super cute, she is really good looking. I got to comment on this, I got to compliment this. And, if you're good enough looking, you can usually get away with that kind of stuff, but that's not most of us. So try to keep it under control, try to be more natural and not cringy. Also, demanding additional photos or inappropriate photos. And by inappropriate photos, I'm not talking about something like obviously inappropriate, like just nudes. That's absurd. Obviously, you're gonna get blocked. But just asking for feet pics. I mean, gosh, that's so weird. I think most women know that that's a red flag, though. Also, just demanding additional photos when it's not necessary. Like you've already seen the person, you don't need to keep demanding photos from them. Then also wanting to meet in private places or under odd circumstances. So for a first date, you should be meeting in a public place. I actually prefer meeting in the daytime. I think it's just kind of keeps it safer, more casual. I do plenty at night as well, or have done plenty at night. But yeah, you want to keep it safe. So, if you're asking for kind of asking her to go to seedy parts of town or places that are dark or meeting in places that aren't public, that's going to be a turnoff. All right, so that's where I'll end it. If you have any other reasons you would add, that you think should be on this list, please let me know. I'd love to hear them. Also, if you enjoyed this video, you want to do coaching with me, you can check out the description. I have my intake form there. I also have my self-improvement guide. Happy to do a dating analysis for you, help you to understand blind spots in your dating situation. Been doing a lot of those lately. They've been a ton of fun. People have really appreciated them, really had their eyes opened to, as I said, some blind spots or aspects of their dating life they weren't aware of. And yeah, other than that, just please like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching. See you in the next video.